here, I'm sorry, this will be the last one. Just put the next one. Now comes a much tougher example. I'm sorry for the images at the beginning. This is Joseph Goebbels, his famous total war speech from February 1943. After Stalingrad defeat, Goebbels organized a big meeting in Berlin to mobilize people for the war effort. And just listen to this. I'm sorry for this, it's a bad version. I didn't get a better version. But wait till you see Goebbels himself.
An den endgültigen totalen Krieg der deutschen Waffen. Ich will behaupten, das deutsche Volk wehrt sich gegen die totalen Kriegsmaßnahmen der Regierung. Es will nicht den totalen Krieg, sagen die Engländer, sondern die Kapitulation.
This is maybe one of the most successful speeches in history. Why? You know, after the Stalingrad defeat, the idea was, let's cover the seriousness of it from the people, let's offer them hope and so on. And this was quite an ingenious idea by the horrible criminal Goebbels. He said, no, let's just confront them with full horror. No false hopes. No, because did you, if you listen to this speech, you know, the questions that Goebbels is demanding from the public, it's basically, do you want to suffer more? Do you want to suffer? You saw that beautiful Kantian almost formulation. Do you want a war so total that you cannot even imagine how total it will be? And then if you listen, you can get it easily on YouTube to the whole speech. It even enumerates, like, do you want to have not enough food? People try, yeah. Do you want to work 12, 14, 16 hours per day? Yes, and so on. And there is no hope, nothing of, oh, then we can be sure at the end it will get better. No. And then, I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to isolate. When people applaud, yes, yes, Goebbels, whose expression of his face during the speech is one of agency, you know, like war, fury, and so on. At that point, it's perversion at its purest. The expression of his face is one of the strange passivity, kind of a perverted satisfaction, not joy, but joy in utter pain. This is, again, surplus enjoyment at its purest. If you want to understand what is Lacanian enjoyment, a surplus over pleasure, it's this gesture. It's a pure gesture of enjoyment. This excessive enjoyment provided by nothing but renunciation itself. So, okay, I talked too much and I know, approaching the end, so now when comes the crucial part, I will try to condense it. So, where do we, capitalism, of course, is the greatest machine of surplus enjoyment. Always more, the more you renounce, the more you have it, and so on. Of course, this dimension of suffering, pleasure in pain, renunciation is covered up. It's not open. Openly, publicly, not fashion, sorry, capitalism is, of course, a discourse of egotism, you follow your interests, and so on. But I claim that, and this now brings us to the greatness of Marx. Marx saw this clearly. He saw this clearly where? Listen, I will really cut it short now. Just read the first sentence of the famous supplement to the first chapter of Capital, The Fetishism of Commodities. I quote Marx, "A commodity appears at first sight a very trivial thing and easily understood. Its analysis shows that it is, in reality, a very queer thing, abounding in metaphysical subtleties and theological niceties." End of quote. Are you aware what a strange thing Marx is saying here? It's exactly the opposite of what we usually perceive as Marxist critique of ideology. We think that ideology are some metaphysical illusions, blah, 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 but that a Marxist analysis should reduce them to our practical reality, real life, production process, and so on. Marx is saying here something quite different. He's saying that no, commodity appears as an ordinary object. What is mysterious about it? I produce commodities, I sell them to gain other commodities or for money. It's all part of ordinary reality. But for Marx, the first task of critical analysis is to bring out, as he calls it, metaphysical subtleties and theological niceties. And this dimension, which Marx in Capital describes precisely in Hegelian terms, in the terms of speculative dialectics, like you cannot really understand Capital without references to Hegel. When Marx, for example, speaks about the passage from money to capital, he uses Hegelian terminology. It's the passage from substance to subject. Value in the form of money is a substance, a neutral measure, or just an intermediary instrument, like I sell something, I buy it, money intermediates. But with capital, money becomes the subject, as Marx put it. Capital is money which, as Marx put it again in a wonderful Hegelian way, with capital, money's relation to other commodities becomes self-relationship. Capital is caught in a circular movement with itself. Just a second, yes, okay, let's go faster. I'm losing time, I know. So again, the Marxist point is that that's a crucial point. we don't simply have on the one level, reality the way it really is, and at another level, ideological illusions in which we live. No, we have, of course, social reality, where workers produce and so on, whatever. And we have our self-awareness, which can be even very realistic. But the true ideological illusion, fantasy, is in between the two. It's this fantasy of capital as circulating monster, which is precisely not what participants in capitalism are aware of. Look what Marx says, crucial quote. If now we take in turn each of the two different forms which self-expanding value successfully assumes in the course of its life, we then arrive at these two propositions: capital is money, capital is commodities. In truth, in der Tat, rather actually, however, value is here the active factor in a process in which, while constantly assuming the form in turn of money and commodities, it at the same time changes in magnitude, differentiates itself by throwing off surplus value from itself. The original value, in other words expands spontaneously, and so on and so on. These are the theological subtleties Marx is describing. But you know why this is such a crucial passage? Because, again, when Marx speaks about fetishist perversion or reversal of commodities, he is not describing wrong consciousness. No, he is describing the ideological fantasy. In other words, commodity fetishism is an illusion, but it's in a way, Marx uses this beautiful term, an objective illusion. It's not an illusion of how things appear to you. We have three levels: how things appear to you, reality, which is simply working class, workers, blah, blah. But in between, we have the objective illusion. We have the phantasmatic structure of reality itself. So be very careful here. When Marx says, in his elementary definition of ideology, that in capitalism, Sie tun das, aber sie wissen das nicht, or something like this, like they are doing it, but they don't know what they are doing. It's not the common sense stupidity that capitalists are doing something and idiots caught in ideological illusions, they don't know what they are doing. No, they don't know what they are doing means that they don't know what illusions they are following in their activity. Like, to bring the paradox to the end, you are doing something and you can be well aware what you are doing, even in a Marxist way, but you are still caught in an illusion, because in your practical activity itself, you obey an illusion. You see the paradox of Marx. Fetishism is part of reality itself. Fetishism is in the very social forum, of what you are doing. There it is what Marx called the theological dimension of capital, which is why, to return to a very sensitive topic, I was always surprised, and I disagreed with this stupidity of, how today we live in an era of egotism, we need more awareness of higher values and so on. Yes, okay, but this is not capitalism. An average capitalist, he is not an egotist caring just for his interests. Every ecologist will tell you that our neglect of ecology is irrational precisely from the standpoint of, let's call it, natural egotism, take for the survival of life. No, taking care of the survival of humanity. No. Capitalism is religious metaphysical in the sense of you are following a certain path of fanatically dedicating your life to the multiplication of value and so on, even if you suspect that it will mean catastrophe. for you even. You know, so Marx's thesis is not of critique of ideology, that's the beauty, is not that capitalists preach about humanity, higher values, but in reality they are egotists and so on, but exactly the opposite. Capitalists think that they are egotists, but they are not. They are perverted theologists, metaphysicians who totally pervert their life for their absolute capital and so on and so on.